Nel Perdomo was the ringleader. When we did the search warrant at his place, we found that he had 600 pair of shoes and 200 bottles of cologne and perfume. He was renting space from a fella I'm going to introduce to you in just a minute in this barbershop. Deron Torres owned the barbershop over in Tampa. So we find that Renell is putting just tons and tons and tons of property through, and Deron was concerned. You see, he wanted cover. So he made Renell rent the space from him for $600 a month, go out and get a business license. Did you hear me? He had a business license to deal in stolen property that he obtained. Well, of course, he didn't go down to the government officials and say, hey, I'm going to sell stolen property, so I need a business license. But he dummied up what he wanted. He got a business license. Deron also made him sign a contract saying that I won't sell any stolen property out of this store. That's at the same time Deron was buying stolen property from Renell. Sorry, Deron, it didn't work. We have a saying around here, Deron. I know you're in Tampa, but I bet it's like that there. If it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it flies like a duck, and it swims like a duck, it's a duck. Same thing with dealing in stolen property. So now we have the ringleader, and we have Deron who's storing it there. But there's another person involved in this who is also a business owner in the same strip mall in Tampa. This is Danez Benez. Danez is the owner of the Cuba La Bella. It is a travel agency, and also she deals with immigration paperwork. She helps people get their immigration paperwork together, and she ships product to Cuba. So if you want to ship product, whatever it is, up to 70 pounds on an aircraft to Cuba, you go to Danae's and she charges you $8 a pound. And means to take it yourself, then she, for $8 a pound, will find somebody, buy them a ticket, and say, hey, if you'll take this product to Cuba, I'll buy you an airplane ticket. So what do? They package it in these black packages here, and you'll see all this stolen property. This was packaged and was to be delivered to Cuba by the people that Danae's hired. So she was shipping the stolen property to Cuba for Renell. We haven't closed the loop yet in Cuba about how the money was getting back from Cuba. That part of the investigation is still ongoing. So Danae's is also selling stolen property out of her business. In addition to that, she told us, she said, all I'm doing is legally shipping stuff. Well, no, you're not, because we've watched you sell stolen product. We've watched you package stolen product, and we've watched you ship it to Cuba. So you go, how did they get this stuff? Well, see, everybody's got a title because this is an important group of people, a well-oiled thieving machine. Tomas Olivia, he's the booster boss, because you got to have a boss. He was also the driver. He would direct what to steal based upon what the boss man said they needed. So they may go to Marion County, to Ocala, and they would steal tonight. But there was no pattern of activity. They may go back 2 or 3 nights in a row. They may not go back to that county for a month or so. There was no pattern of theft because we tried to pattern them. They would go in and out of a particular store 3 or 4 times. And do you know what they took in to steal? Yeah, that's right. They would take a small cooler, a cooler. Set the cooler up in a basket, or either carry it, go to whatever they wanted to steal, whether that be shoes or perfumes, or whether they lot of medicines over the counter, a lot of white strips, a lot of razor blades. And they would just pile it in and leave with it. So they would pile it in and make several trips out. Once again, let me remind you, $10,000 to $15,000 a night. They had so much stored in Tomas's house, in addition to the other places that this stolen property was stored, that Tomas was storing it in the bedroom of his 12-year-old daughter. Tomas also took Santiago and Michael to either see their lawyer or to court. Do you know why? Santiago was arrested for shoplifting in St. Pete. So when we went to arrest Santiago before, he was all smiles. Well, you can do that if you got free whitening for your teeth. You can just smile and you have white teeth. And he said, "Is this another grand theft shoplifting case?" And then we mentioned the magic words of racketeering, which is a 30-year first-degree felony. His smile went away. So he is locked up. But it wasn't just that easy. When we went to arrest him, he and his girlfriend barricaded themselves in a bedroom. And you know what they used as a barricade? You guessed it. Stolen clothes and property. That's right. He moved the stolen property against the door to try to keep us from getting in there. Michael is the other booster. Michael was arrested for retail theft in Hillsborough County. So here we have Tomas, who's the ringleader, driving Michael to an appointment with his lawyer, and Santiago to a court appearance on his previous theft case. Well, it's important to understand that any well-meaning bunch of thugs, like I've shown you, doesn't need to bother doing another job, because, your hours are pretty well filled when you're going out every night of the week and stealing. Well, so why not go ahead and take your free food stamps and your EBT card? That's right. Santiago and Tomas both were on federal assistance. Did you hear me? They were taking federal assistance, food stamps. We found their cards. This is not their actual card numbers. Don't freak out. Because, heck, somebody might steal it from them. But while they were stealing stuff to the tune of millions of dollars, causing you to pay more at the store, they were also taking your tax dollar in the area of food stamps. Now, I don't know about you, but that upsets me. They're thieves. They're criminals. Don't let anyone tell you, oh, it's just minor shoplifting. No, it's organized retail theft. I'm going to turn the podium over to Nick Cox, and then he will introduce John, and to hear from them, and then we'll accept questions from you. Okay? Nick?
Thank you, sir. It boggles my mind all the time that criminals would even think of coming to Polk County to commit crimes after listening to Sheriff Judd 3 and 4 times a week on TV. Hearing a rap song about him. It's beyond me, because I don't think that this county could do anything more than they do. You know what's amazing about this case to me? Sheriff Judd mentioned a moment ago about on the I-4 corridor how law enforcement and all of us, prosecutors, everybody work together. And it really is amazing in this part of Florida, the level of cooperation we see. And that's underlined here. I think it's noteworthy to us especially. These kind of cases, and this case in particular, is a very large-scale criminal operation. Statewide prosecution, that's what we do. We handle multi-circuit litigation that affects multiple judicial circuits. Here it affects 8 judicial circuits and 14 counties. And we handle cases primarily by statute that involved organized crime. And what the sheriff has here is exactly what we handle. And unfortunately, we've seen these kind of cases before. What's remarkable here, and Sheriff, I got to hand it to you, and your investigators in the back. This case was discovered in February. We learned that there was a connection from another one of the counties involved about 6 weeks before these arrests were made. And inside of that 6-week period, the Polk County Sheriff's Office and FDLE and Tampa Police Department, but led by Sheriff Judd, got this thing wrapped up and got people arrested inside of 6 weeks. I mean, that is remarkably quick in our experience, and it's really well done. I can tell you, we get a case from Polk County, we automatically assign a number because the organized crime folks over here are top shelf, and they absolutely showed it here. Attorney General Moody is actually in another part of the state right now honoring some police officers with some awards for heroism. But I did speak to her this morning, and she wanted me to pass on her complete and total commitment. The Attorney General and the statewide prosecutor's office, we will 100% stand with law enforcement and do everything we can to protect consumers and citizens from frauds, crimes, scams, and theft like this. The sheriff's right. The amount of money this costs John taxpayer and Joan taxpayer is amazing, and we've got to stop this kind of stuff. So I just want to thank everybody for their involvement in this. The cooperation here, it's amazing too. Sheriff Judd was able to garner the cooperation of the corporations that were the victims here. And I got to tell you, the level of cooperation was absolutely remarkable. I mean, they were really working hand in hand with the law enforcement agents from Polk County, and it's just remarkable to see that kind of cooperation and work. And so again, I want to thank the sheriff and his detectives for everything they did, because that is a wonderful thing to see. And when we all get together like that, we knock these things down. Finally, it really does amaze me that people come to Polk County to do this. I remember recently I was speaking. I was speaking with an agent from another county, and they were talking about a defendant, and there was a connection with Polk County, and they were talking to this person they had arrested, and they mentioned Polk County, and I don't even think I've told you this, Sheriff, but this guy made a comment that he's sick of Judd, Sheriff Judd. He's sick of Judd, and I asked our prosecutor, "Did you respond?" "Well, then just don't commit crimes in Polk County." It's amazing. I don't know what it takes, but I guess they say if criminals aren't dumb sometimes we wouldn't catch them. But this wasn't a dumb operation. This was high-level stuff. And Sheriff, I commend you for this. And these guys did not duck Grady Judd. So I'd like to take a moment to introduce John Vecchio. John Vecchio is the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the Tampa Bay Regional Operations Center for the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and a wonderful, wonderful partner. John.
Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to commend Sheriff Judd and the statewide prosecutor and their teams for their diligent work on this investigation. FDLE is proud to work with our law enforcement partners to dismantle these organized criminal groups. One of our partners is the Tampa Bay Regional Intelligence Center, which provides analytical assistance to law enforcement agencies and identifies criminal trends and information. The T-BRIC in this instant helped develop crime trends that were used to advance strong criminal cases and prosecutions for this case. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement, as well as our local partners, provide resources to the T-BRIC, which was instrumental in this investigation. Through shared intelligence, we learned that this was a large organized group that was wreaking havoc through several counties in the state. This organized group wasn't just afraid to travel throughout the state. They traveled through 14 counties, stealing as much as $100,000 worth of merchandise in 1 week, proving once again that retail theft is costly. As a statewide law enforcement agency, FDLE can track these individuals and assist our local partners with forming these boundaries to come together to one investigation. Criminals know no jurisdictional boundaries. Our statewide visibility, we have firsthand learned that criminal activity can negatively impact businesses, consumers, and the state economy. When goods are not sold through regular or usual commercial means, the state suffers the loss of sales tax that costs us all greatly. Retail stores suffer greatly too. Just consider the amount of property lost and the amount of money lost when property is stolen. That cost is passed on to the consumer in higher price tags. FDLE has initiated several investigations related to organized theft groups across the state, and we will continue to work with our partners to stop this costly crime where we can.
I appreciate the kind words by our statewide prosecutor, Nick Cox, but look,
Speaking the
folks,
truth, Sheriff.
I coach. It's these detectives and these folks that work as our corporate partners and the statewide prosecutor and FDLE and the police departments, and it's all of those that do the work. I tell everybody they work real hard and I talk a lot. So with that, I'll stop and entertain any questions you may have. Yes, ma'am.
Sheriff, I see on the poster it says Michael Balagron Jimenez wanted. Can you explain, like, is he still out there? And also explain further his connection and Santiago's to this organized retail crime.
Michael is the third booster. He's one of the Steelers, and he is not in custody at this time. So we need him. And by the way, for all of you honest people out there, if you'll call Crime Stoppers, 1-800-226-TIPS, and just give us a lead where he's ducking Grady, we will